Configuration options for architectural grade aluminum windows. Welcome to Building Knowledge 101. Delve into the configuration options for architectural grade aluminum windows with Kawneer.
All right, so now let's take a look at some common configurations of windows and talk about those. So when we talk about window configurations, the first document I want you to be aware of is AMA WSG-11. This is the Window and Door Selection Guide. And 4.0 that I have outlined here or underlined here is window types. And under 4.0, you can see there's a big list of different optional windows. There's a lot of them out there. So when we talk about window configurations, you can see there are 23 different types of window configurations listed there. I'm not going to talk about all of those. I want to hit on some of the more common ones and give you a little bit of an overview of what those are. I'd like to start with what we call double hung and single hung windows. So this is a window that has a single frame with two sash set within that single frame. If it's a single hung, the upper sash is fixed and the lower sash can slide up and down within the frame. With a double hung, the upper sash and the lower sash can both slide up and down within that frame. There are triple units, which usually consist of a fixed unit set on top of those two. So you've got your double hung with a fixed unit on top of that. That would be considered a triple. The gateway sizes are listed here. Now I've talked about gateway sizes. Here they are listed here. And you can see residential, the gateway size is 39.5 inches by 63. And an AW window is 59 inches by 98.5. So big difference there. So that's the gateway sizes. And you can see light commercial window are listed in there also. So again, the gateway sizes that for a double hung or a single hung, every manufacturer, whoever you're looking at, if they're providing a commercial window, in order to be tested in accordance with NAF 17, they have to test this gateway size and pass and establish a performance grade and design pressure. Then once they've done that, they can test any size they want to. So they can test a smaller one and come up with a higher design pressure. But you as an architect, what you always want to look at is the gateway size and compare that between each manufacturer. That way you're getting an apples to apples comparison. Again, note how with the AW window, it's a much larger window. That's why we talked about being concerned about deflection limitation and limiting any permanent set or bend in the frames, because with AW windows, it's always a much larger window. So here's an example of some hung windows. These are typically seen in historic renovation. A lot of the older buildings we have in the United States were built originally with double hung or single hung windows. So here's examples of newer, modern, thermally broken, insulated, double hung windows used in a historic renovation. Good example of nice double hung product. The other type of slider is called a horizontal slider. So with a horizontal slider, you're going to have one frame and then multiple sash set within it, two or more sash set within it. So typically one's going to be fixed, one's going to slide behind that fixed unit. When we look at the configurations with a horizontal slider, we label the sashes either an X or an O. An O is a fixed unit and an X is an operable unit. So you can have an OX or an XO. You can have an OXO, OXXO, or XOX. So you can have a number of different configurations. So with a horizontal slider, one frame, multiple sash set within it, and then you have multiple units that slide, and they're all called out by either an X or an O. Then we have our gateway sizes listed here at the bottom of that column. Here's an example of horizontal sliders. Now, if you look at these are considered XOX. So you've got a large fixed unit in the center, and then two smaller sash that slide back and forth behind it. So that would be considered an XOX configuration. Now, casement windows work in compression. They don't slide, they work in compression. When the window's closed, the hardware that you use to lock it draws the sash in tight and compresses it against the frame. So with casement windows, you're going to have one frame and then a single sash. So with the hung units, I mentioned one frame and two sash. But with casements, it's one frame and one sash. And with a casement, the sash is going to pivot on the side, either using butt hinges, close-up hinges, or more commonly 4-bar friction hinges, so that it either projects out, you have an outswing so that the one side of the sash swings outward, or an inswing. So when it's opened up, one side swings inward. If you have an emergency egress window, we'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment here. Those all have to be outswing, have one-hand operation, multi-point locks. So again, I'll refer to that in just a little bit here. Here are the gateway sizes listed down below here. Here's an example of two casements in an elevation. So you can see it's a larger elevation with stacking mullions holding individual units in place. And in the center at the bottom, there are two operable casements that are outswing units. They're in a closed configuration now, but a good example of casement. Here is a residential application. There's a high-rise multifamily project. So if you notice on this one, the casement window has a cam handle at the bottom. You can see one cam handle, and the cam is kind of flipped up so you can see it. But that operates two remote locks that you can see further up the sides of the casement window. So in this case, you're going to have a single point multi-lock application, single handle multi-point operation. So the casement can be operated by one cam handle that releases three locks that are daisy linked to it. Another compression window is what we call either a project in or a hopper, or a project out or an awning. So with this one, you have a single frame and a single sash, and then the sash hinges along the side. So with a hopper, it's going to tip in at the top. The top of the window is going to project inward. With an awning, the bottom of the sash projects outward. So it swings outward. These typically use 4-bar friction hardware in the sides to pivot the windows inward or outward. Again, they're compression, so when they're closed, the cam handles grab and pull the sash into the frame, compressing the gaskets, giving you a nice tight seal. Then here are our gateway sizes listed down below here. And as we were looking at earlier, you can see that moving from a residential to an AW, the gateway size increases considerably going to the higher performing window. Here's an example of an awning. You can see how the bottom of the sash is projected outward. And with 4-bar friction hardware, it kind of pivots the window because the head drops down a little bit, but you can see the bottom projects outward. So that is a typical project out awning type window. Here's another configuration called a tilt turn or dual action window. This is a pretty unique window. You have a single frame and a single sash, but what's unique about it is the sash can operate in two different configurations. You typically have one large rotating handle on the side, and if you rotate the handle one direction and pull the window, it opens up like a hopper. The head of the window comes inward, projects inward. Close the window, rotate the handle 180 degrees so it goes completely the opposite direction. Then when you pull it, the window now opens up as an in-swing casement. So it's a single vent, a single sash, and a single frame that can operate in one of two different configurations as either a hopper or an in-swing casement. Pretty unique window. Here are the gateway sizes listed down here. And again, I mentioned earlier the concealed sightline. I want to come back and focus on that because all the windows we've looked at so far, they're all standalone windows. You could use those as a punched opening in any elevation. They can be set in there because you've got a sash with a unique frame that goes with it. With concealed sightline windows, they fall under the category of projected. They are compression projected windows, but they're designed to work with a larger glazed frame elevation. These are not standalone windows. You wouldn't have a punched opening with a concealed sightline window in it. It has to be part of a larger storefront or curtain wall elevation. So they're designed to be set within another glazed elevation, but the frame is all to the interior. So if you look at the elevation from the outside, you don't see a buildup of frame around the operable unit. The frame is all to the interior. So it gives you a nice seamless look across an elevation where windows don't jump out at you because of the added sightline of the window.
That is all we have time for in this video. If you'd like to watch more of our 101 video series, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Kawneer Company, Inc.